Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Islands Uncovered. My name is Megan. I am the owner of Dare to Dream Travel, and I exclusively sell Sandals and Beaches resorts that are all-inclusive resorts located around the Caribbean. Today, after we chat through the current promos, deals, and rooms on sale that I think are worth mentioning, we are going to head to Curaçao. I wanted to talk about Curaçao just with everything that has been in the news around that area lately. I think that this is one of my top 3 favorite Sandals resorts is Sandals Royal Curaçao. And so I wanted to talk about the island beyond the resort as we always do. And I wanted to do something a little bit more lighthearted and fun. So today we're not only talking about Curaçao, the island, but we're also talking about Curaçao, the liqueur. But like always, let's start with the Sandals and Beaches sales and deals that are happening right now. It's been a little bit since I've recorded a podcast simply because it's been the holidays and I've been spending a lot of time with my family. And the current promo has changed. It was the Sandals Gift the Caribbean sale. Now it's the Sandals and Beaches Winter Blues sale. This started on January 2nd, and it's currently going until February 2nd. So I wanted to take a quick minute here in the front end and just break down the sale for you so that you know what to expect if you're looking to book a trip during this time. And if you do decide to book a Sandals or Beaches vacation, they have some special promos going on right now. And the Sandals Winter Blues sale is a great deal if you like to do the stuff. When you go to the resort, there's extra stuff that you can do besides just sitting by the pool. And this sale gives you some of that for free. So let's kind of break that down. If you stay 5 or more nights at any of the resorts, you are going to get a $150 spa credit. That's probably not going to cover your entire treatment, but it's going to cover the majority of it. So that's a pretty good deal. And then if you stay 7+ nights, you also will get a catamaran cruise for 2 people. Now, this is the same at Sandals and Beaches, the spa credit and the catamaran cruise. Just know that Beaches, of course, is the family resort. So if you are traveling in a group that has more than 2 people to Beaches, and more people want to go on the catamaran cruise, you will have the option to purchase additional tickets, but 2 people are covered. Use those for 2 adults and you have a great perk and start to your, extras that you're going to experience at the resort. Catamaran cruise at any of the resorts is something that a lot of my clients will book. We have personally done the catamaran cruise at Beaches Turks and Caicos multiple times, and there are multiple different options for this as well. The one that we did last time, the kids had so much fun. Not only did we snorkel and go to Iguana Island, we got off at Iguana Island and we were walking in the water. We saw a huge stingray, and then we got back on the boat. And I think the most fun part, for my kids at least, was when they put down the slides off the back of the boat and they got to slide into the water. They also let them jump off the side of the boat, which is so fun. I have amazing pictures of them doing that. And even though we had gone on different catamaran cruises before, they talked about this specific one and jumping off the boat into those beautiful Turks and Caicos waters. They still talk about it now. So Sandals Beaches, this catamaran cruise deal is certainly a benefit if you're looking to go 7 or more nights. And then you're going to see that there is a $350 airfare credit. Now, remember, this is if you book your air through Sandals. So you can't book it on your own. You'd have to book it through Sandals. If you've listened to this or you follow me on social media, you know that a lot of my clients choose to book their airfare on their own. I always talk to my clients about pros and cons, and I'm very honest about what that is in terms of booking through Sandals or a different route. So just keep in mind that this $350 airfare credit is available, but only if you are going to the resorts in Jamaica. So there are some resorts in Jamaica that are currently closed through the end of May, but Ocho Rios is open as well as Negril. And there's also the Beaches Negril that's open. So this wouldn't apply if you're going to Turks, but the Beaches in Negril, the airfare credit would apply to. And then there's also the resort credit. So you're going to see They're going to say $1,500. Now, keep in mind the $1,500 resort credit is for Sandals, not beaches, and it's only if you stay 10 or more nights. So if you stay 10 or more nights, you're going to get a $1,500 resort credit. And then at 7 or more nights, there are 6 resorts that you get a $1,000 resort credit. And that is going to be St. Vincent, Curaçao, Grenada, both the resorts in Barbados, and Royal Bahamian. So that's going to give you your best deal. The other resorts still have resort credit, but they're going to be between $600 and $650 for 7+ nights. And then there are resort credits starting at 3 nights for some of the resorts and 4 nights for all the resorts, but they're lower amounts. So if you have questions about what the resort credit is, please reach out. Also, these are resort credits that are already going to be applied once you start going into the pricing section of the Sandals website. It's not additional on top of what the prices you see. They're already going to factor these in. So keep that in mind. And then the resort credit is a little bit less if you're going to beaches. It will only go up to $500 for 10+ nights for both of the resorts, and then it goes down from there. So you get a little bit less of a resort credit, but remember, there's only 2 beaches that are open right now, and these resorts are filling up very fast. And so that's going to bring me to my next point, and that is going to be the travel window. So for Sandals, this deal is for trips booked all the way up through December 25th of 2027. So you can get this catamaran cruise and spa credit for a trip this year. You can get it next year. And the only blackout date is December 26th through January 1st. It's that week between Christmas and New Year. It's always blacked out. So you wouldn't be able to get this to apply to those dates, but any other day it is available. Beaches has a few more restrictions on blackout dates. Their blackout dates are going to be between February 14th and 20th, March 28th and April 5th. That's going to be spring break. And then it's blacked out May 14th through August 8th. So that's going to be while kids are out of school. There's a lot of people who do not like to pull their kids out of school. I pull my kids out of school all the time. They're fine. But I get it. Some people don't like to pull their kids out of school. So that is why this deal is not going to apply over the summer, because supply and demand. There's way more demand in the summer. They really don't need this sale to push people to go to the resorts. But I'll give you a thing. If your kids don't start school until the beginning of September, we have gone down to Jamaica the past 2 years, like the 3rd week in August, I think it is. And the weather, it's hot, but it is beautiful. The sun's out. People are always like, oh, but that's kind of like hurricane season. It's like, yeah, sure. Okay, I guess there could be a hurricane coming through, but it's not as likely as some of the other times of the month. And live your life. So if you want this deal to apply and you need to travel while your kids are out of school, maybe look towards the end of August. I think it's personally a really great time to get to Jamaica or Turks and Caicos. And then just keep in mind that for beaches, this travel window only goes through November 3rd. So if you're booking a trip in November, December into 2027, you're not going to get the spa credit and the airfare credit. It's only for trips booked within the next 11 months. And then lastly, if we are going to talk airfare, airlines do not release their flights 2 years in advance. So the air credit travel window for Sandals only goes till February 2nd of 2027. If you're booking for summer of 2027, you can't get the airfare credit. And then for beaches, because this sale only goes until November 3rd, the airfare credit applies through that whole time. So when you read the fine print of these sales, there are a lot of different things like that to keep in mind. And when I have a client reach out to me, I always take all of these things into consideration. I try to stack as many deals as I can on top of them for people. I am happy to do the dirty work for you and find you the best rate. So if you are interested in taking advantage of this sale, Winter Blues sale, Sandals and Beaches, goes through bookings through February 2nd, 2026. Please reach out and I would be more than happy to help you book your trip. My services are completely free. Okay, so then next, there is always the 777 deals as well. As a reminder, these 7 rooms at Sandals and 7 rooms at Beaches are an additional 7% off, but only if you put down a deposit through next Tuesday. And I'm not going to go into the different dates here, but if you're looking by yourself and trying to do this on your own, there is fine print on certain blackout days for the 777 deals as well. Another reason to have a travel advisor look this over for you, find somebody who you trust. They're going to be honest with you and say, maybe, hey, if you swing this vacation, if you can, 1 week earlier, you're going to save a lot of money, right? Find somebody who you think is actually going to do that for you. That's my advice. All right, so let's look at these rooms really quickly. So, Sandals, same resorts that we've had the last few weeks. We've got butler rooms at St. Vincent, Halcyon in St. Lucia, Latak in St. Lucia has the Butler Rondeval. We've got Royal Barbados with another 1-bedroom ocean view butler suite. These are all the butler rooms on 777. And then also Sandals Ochi has the 1-bedroom poolside butler villa suite. These resorts were just cycling through different rooms that are on sale. I will let you know if anything shocking comes up that we haven't seen in a while. But there are 2 other rooms that are not butler rooms. We are at Grand St. Lucian. We've got the Caribbean Luxury Ocean View room. So this is that entry-level room. I say it all the time. If you're looking to get into the Grand in St. Lucia, which is typically the most expensive resort in St. Lucia, and you just want a room to be able to get out and enjoy the resort, the luxury rooms are great. You're not going to have room service, but there's a fantastic room and you're going to be outside most of the time anyway. So the Caribbean Luxury Ocean View room is on sale this week. And then I wanted to save for last, there's a room from Curaçao. So we've got the Curaçao Club Level Ocean View room. Views of the ocean. It's a club level room. It's an additional 7% off. This room is going to be located on the 3rd or 4th floors of the Curaçao buildings. So I've been to this resort. I love this resort. And these rooms, let me see, they face towards the water in the pool, but you're set back into this very large grass space. So you're not right up next to the pool. It still feels like there's a lot of privacy between yourself, the pool, and people walking. I find that sometimes these rooms are pushed right up to main areas of the resort, that there's a lot of action. These rooms are not. I think they're pretty quiet, and you get the beautiful ocean views. You get your king size bed. You get your bathroom that has a walk-in shower. There is a glass window from the shower into the bedroom. Sometimes that's surprising for people, but remember, Sandals are built for couples, so, hopefully that doesn't bother you. And then you have the concierge service and then the Club Sandals Lounge to help you arrange different things in the room service from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Please reach out if you are interested in going to Curaçao. It's a lovely island. It's very safe. We are going to talk about it today. And then let's move over to Beaches really quick. We've got 7 separate rooms from Beaches. Sometimes people don't realize that there's 7 rooms at Sandals and 7 rooms at Beaches that are on sale this week. Again, there's only 2 resorts right now, Beaches Negril, Beaches Turks. So what we've been seeing is 3 rooms from Turks being on sale and 4 rooms from Negril. And that's exactly what we're seeing this week. We've got our usual suspects. We've got the Italian Village in there. This room is the Ocean View room. And we've got a Key West 1-bedroom. That's at Turks. Now, what I really wanted to highlight at Beaches Turks and Caicos this week, I'm actually super excited about it, is that the new Treasure Beach Village that is opening on March 1st, for the very first time, has a room on 777 this week. It is the Treasure Beach Concierge Suite, and it is available starting March 1st. It is an extra 7% off. You would have to contact me so I could see when it would be available, because I know this section of the resort is booking up very, very fast. Okay, so this room is going to be, like I said, in the new Treasure Beach Village. It's concierge, so you do have access to the concierge lounge. There's a king bed in this room. And then in a separate bedroom, there is a bunk bed area. You're also going to see that this room is listed as sleeping up to 6. Something to keep in mind is it's listed as sleeping up to 6 because there is a sleeper sofa in the same room as the king bed. So, assuming that you are okay with having some kids in the same room with you, this can sleep up to 6. If you want some privacy and want to have that separation, this may not work for you if you have more than 2 children. So you're hearing this and you're thinking, "Oh, this room is set up very similar to the rooms in the Italian village with the king bed and the bunk beds." Here's the kicker. There are 2 bathrooms in here, which is absolutely amazing. If you're in the Italian village, they do have a separate sink in their bedroom that they can use, but there's only 1 bathroom. This room has 2 bathrooms in it, one right connected to the kids' room. So it's really luxurious. It's on sale for the first time this week for deposits placed through next Tuesday. I am very hopeful that we are going to see more rooms from the Treasure Beach Village going on sale in the future, but you never know. This is the first time they've listed it. So if you are interested in getting a room booked there, please reach out sooner rather than later. This part of the resort is booking up so quickly. Okay, so I'm going to take a breath. I had my son's spelling bee today, and it took a lot out of me. That is nerve-wracking, I will tell you. If you've ever watched your child perform at something, anything, sport, spelling bee, theater, as a parent, you really feel that for them. Okay, we're going to talk about vacation. I need to get back to this resort. This is just going to help me channel being at Sandals Royal Curaçao. I'm going back the first chance I get. Okay, so before we get into our story today, I wanted to set the scene a little bit so that you can have a little bit more information about Sandals Royal Curaçao. Maybe you're listening to this as you're traveling there. Maybe you are considering a trip there. I always think it's great to learn more about not only the resort, but also the people in the island. And that's exactly why I am doing this podcast. Even if nobody listens to it, I am learning so much and enjoying all of these stories and learning about these islands. Oh, and one more sidetrack. I did an episode, it was a few weeks ago when I was talking about Jamaica, about the legend of the White Witch. And when I recently was in Jamaica, so I flew into Montego Bay. We have to drive to Ocho Rios. Well, I don't have to drive. I take the Sandals transfer. Of course, it's free. And I was thinking about that podcast and that episode, and the legend of the White Witch was from Rose Hall, which I know is in Montego Bay on the way. And I was like, I am going to see this property. I love all that, like hauntings and legends and things like that. And I saw it. It was so awesome. If you are driving from Montego Bay to Ocho Rios, sit on the right side of the bus. I can't remember how far out of town we were. Oh, I wish I did. I didn't even think to whip out my camera and take a picture. You'll see signs for the golf course first, and then Rose Hall, the Great House, is set farther back. So I don't know. Who can I convince to do the tour, the haunted tour of this house the next time we go to Montego Bay? If there are any takers, let's go to Montego Bay. Let's schedule a tour at Rose Hall and get all spooked out and then come back to the resort and have some cocktails. That is like my dream. So we're going to figure this out. Okay, but we're not talking about Jamaica today. We're not talking about Rose Hall. We're not even talking about any hauntings. We're going to Curaçao. We're going to keep it lighthearted. So let's start by talking about Sandals Royal Curaçao. Most people, when you're flying from the United States or out of the country, you're going to come into Curaçao International Airport. So that's Hato Airport, and the airport code is CUR. What I remember about the airport is that the technology was great. It was very easy to navigate through. And once you get through customs, you step into this huge room, and it's all open air, and this warm heat it just hits you. And that's when you know that you've made it in life, made it to Sandals Royal Curaçao. And then the Sandals staff greets you and you don't have to think another thought. It is amazing. But like I said, they provide complimentary round trip airport transfers. So you just check in at the Sandals Lounge. They tag your bags. They just take your name, call you when the bus is ready. And my bus was right there. I didn't even have to wait. And then from the airport, the resort is only about 15 miles away, but the roads are not like highways. So it usually takes about 45 minutes. When we got on, they told us it was going to take an hour. I had looked it up before that and I was like, no, it's not going to take an hour. And it didn't. It only took 45 minutes, but they want you to be prepared in case there's traffic. So I'm going to say 45 minutes. I'm going to be optimistic. And it's just a nice ride. I had been up, since 1 a.m, I think, when I went to Curacao. So I was very tired. I admit I did doze off a little bit on that ride, but I really enjoyed the ride to the resort. It's a very different landscape than any of the other Caribbean islands that you're on because it's more arid and you're going to see cactus and you'll see a little glimpse of the coast here and there, but it's a very desert hue Caribbean Sea landscape. I don't want that to scare you from going to the resort and you're like, oh, I don't want to go to a resort and it feels like the desert. Once you get on the resort, there are palm trees. I'm sure there's palm trees in other parts of the island too, but the resort is very tropical. It's just the general landscape is way more arid than some of the other islands. So Sandals Royal Curacao is on the southern coast of Curacao. It's within Santa Barbara Plantation Community. So this area was once home to the island's largest historic plantations that date back to the 1600s. And unlike the islands that grew a lot of sugar, Curaçao's plantation were more described as multi-purpose estates. So we've got livestock, they were harvesting salt, they were growing crops, what they could in the dry climate, and the coastline there is pretty protected. So all of this worked really well. And if you get to the resort and you want to take a drive into the capital city of Willemstad, it's about a 30-minute drive. Like I said, it's very safe. If you get a certain room category at Sandals Royal Curacao, you know what they give you? They give you a Mini Cooper to drive around, like on your own. You are certainly capable of taking a car and going for a drive. You can go see the flamingos, you can go see the caves, you can go into town. It's great. So if you have questions about that room, please let me know. That is an amazing perk of being in those butler rooms. So it's close enough that you can head into town for like an afternoon, or if you wanted to go off resort for dinner, that's definitely an option. But you still feel at the resort like you're really removed from all the hustle and bustle of the city itself. You don't feel any of that when you're at Sandals Royal Curacao. So I also want to mention that Curacao is a fantastic option if you are concerned about hurricanes. I know hurricanes can happen. I get that. That's why you buy travel protection and you have good thoughts. But Curacao is actually positioned south of the hurricane belt, which means that the weather is a lot more stable and dry year round, and it doesn't really get hit as much by the hurricanes. Please note, I am not saying that it could never happen. Of course, I cannot control the weather, but less likely if you are going to Curacao that is going to affect you. One less thing to worry about. You can go lounge on the beach, explore town, and what we're going to be talking about today, sip some cocktails. One of my favorite things to do at Sandals. The island is very Dutch influenced. It's got that bright colored architecture, and Sandals Royal Curacao just feels like a home base. Feels like a home base that you can have to go and explore this country freely and go scuba diving or snorkeling, all included at Sandals. Go into town, do so many different things, and come back to your home base, feel comfortable, relax, or you can just go and sit by the pool the whole time. I'm not going to judge you. It's an amazing pool. It's an infinity pool. It looks out over the edge of the water. Not judging. All right, but let's get into our story that we were going to talk about today. And that begins in Curacao with a fruit. I told you we were keeping it light today. We're talking about fruit. So let's picture this. We've got some Spanish explorers back in 1527, but they bring with them a fruit, the Valencia orange. And they've grown this before, and they are very hopeful that Curaçao's tropical climate will be able to be a good climate for growing and harvesting these Valencia oranges. The island said no. The soil's arid. The sun is it's hot. It's a desert. I just said it was a desert. We're not going to grow oranges in the desert. So what happened was the Valencia oranges, they couldn't take the heat. And when a fruit doesn't have the best growing conditions, it can still grow, but it kind of grows into something that's not very good. Think about if you ever tried to like grow a watermelon. I'm in the north part of the United States. So like we always try to like plant a watermelon, but we don't have enough growing season time, I feel like. So we pick it and it's not ripe yet. And it's like pink, not red. And it's a little bit too white and it tastes horrible. This is kind of that. So they tried to grow these oranges, but they were all bitter and dry and borderline inedible. So the locals were like, this fruit is awful. We can not eat this. I don't know why you brought this here. Horrible idea. And they tried to feed it to their goats and the goats would not eat it. Gross. So they're like, all right, well, what else can we do with this? And the peel they found, once they dried it in the sun, it gave off a very fragrant aroma that did catch their attention. So we've got this really fragrant orange aroma. And what happened was these fruits that were supposed to be these beautiful, juicy Valencia oranges became something completely different. And the Spanish named them Citrus aurantium curasuvensis. I said that wrong. I am staring at a very long scientific biological word, so that's not right. But it was called the golden orange of Curaçao, which I can read and understand. In the local language, the fruit came to be known simply as laraha. So Curaçao's most famous citrus, couldn't eat it, but it was absolutely perfect drying those peels to make something else. The local farmers and settlers found out that when they dried the peels, like I said, they gave off these aromatic oils, and the oils captured the essence of the orange without the sweetness. So it was kind of like the smell of an orange orchard around harvest time, if you can imagine. That to me seems like it would smell very good. I can see why they would want to do something with this. And at first, what happened was the discovery was small, local. The friends figured it out and they were sharing the idea with their neighbors. But then by the end of the 19th century, something happened. And a family that was named Senor could be senior if I'm like pronouncing it like the dumb American that I am, but there's no little squiggly over the end. So in my defense, it could be Senior and Company, who has long been established on Curaçao, began making a liquor out of the dried laraha peels. And what they did was the citrus oils steeped in the alcohol, and then they strained it and they sweetened it and they bottled it. And the little fruit that they thought was useless and the goats wouldn't even eat it, they finally figured out what they could do with it. So the distillery they built, the Senior and Company, they built the Landhouse Chobolobo in Williamsted. And it's still operating today. You can go there. It's welcoming visitors and you can taste history firsthand. Curaçao, you know what I'm talking about, that blue stuff. So this distillery, Landhouse Chobolobo, is a 19th century plantation house. And that today houses the distillery behind Senior and Company's genuine Curaçao liqueur. So it's often referred to as the home of Curaçao liquor, and it's part of a museum, part of a production facility, and a tasting experience even. And it's still made on the island using real laraha peels at Landhouse Chobolobo. That is a lot of words. I do not really know how to say, but I am trying really hard. Whew, okay. So here's the thing. Remember how I talked about Sandals Royal Curaçao being a home base? Go do one of these guided tours. It's awesome. Go into town. They have guided tours and you can do tastings. There's a standard tour that's 45 to 60 minutes. You walk through the distillery. You learn about the history of the production of Curaçao, and it includes a cocktail or a non-alcoholic beverage, but it's great for first-timers who just want to know the essentials. Or you can even do a deluxe tour, which is similar, but you're tasting multiple different flavors and you get 2 different drinks, you get some ice cream, and they describe it as a bit more of like a sensory experience, which I think is kind of cool because, I mean, that's what we're talking about here is orange aromatics. Like it should be a sensory experience. And then finally, they even have a cocktail workshop. So you can learn mixology using the Curaçao liqueur, and it includes multiple drinks and a welcome cocktail, and you're definitely going to need a ride back to the resort. So tours run in multiple languages, English, Dutch, Spanish, and the local Papiamentu, which I also probably am not pronouncing correctly, but everybody on the island knows all of these languages. We will talk about that in a different episode. It's amazing. They can do the tours in all the languages, and they run usually Monday through Friday with scheduled time slots throughout the day. I will include the link to the distillery in the notes for this podcast. I encourage you, if you are going to Curaçao, to check it out. So next, one thing you might be asking yourself is, this is an orange liqueur. Why is it blue? That is a great question. So I did some research, and it said that in the early 20th century, liquors and spirits were sometimes sold in multiple hues. So white, orange, red, blue, green. And they did this so the bartenders and distillers, they could experiment with the color and essentially make fun drinks. They were doing this with not just this liquor, but multiple different liquors during this time. And for this particular liquor, the blue version just happened to become the most iconic of all of them. So it looks like colored Curaçaos appear as early as the 1920s. And then in the 1930s and beyond, the blue variety is what became the most popular. And by the 1960s, that's what was trending globally around the world for tropical cocktail culture and pop culture references like the Blue Hawaii. So all my research tells me that this Senior & Company, they are the authority of the Curaçao liqueur. And what they say is that the blue is meant to recall the island's azure seas and brilliant skies, literally bottling a bit of Caribbean vibe into every cocktail. I love that. I love that because those waters are beautiful in blue. One very early Dutch version of Blue Curaçao even had a French name. It was called Crème de Ciel, which translates into cream of the sky. Hinting about the color was symbolic to Curaçao. And of course, blue just doesn't look good. It feels tropical. We associate blue with any sort of tropical drink for sure. So from its very beginning in Curaçao, the word Curaçao became shorthand for this orange liqueur, and the color blue kind of became shorthand for the word exotic, right? So the bartenders across different continents learned the magic of the Blue Curaçao, and there's so many different punches and vacation bars all over the world that serve Blue Curaçao. So my Sandals experts, here's my question for you. Blue Curaçao, what is your favorite Sandals cocktail that includes Blue Curaçao? What comes to my mind is, of course, going to be the Purple Rain. It's not blue, but you put that Blue Curaçao in there to make it purple. And then, of course, the Blue Hawaiian. I know that there are other drinks out there. Share them in the comments. I want to know what to try the next time that I'm at Sandals and want something tropical and blue. Drink some Curaçao in Curaçao. And that, friends, brings us back to where so many of us can be found when we're on vacation. At the swim-up bar, sipping our cocktails, ordering something blue that we would probably never drink at home. And now when you drink your Curaçao drinks, think about where they come from. Try to smell those Valencia oranges. You know how it's made, and you have just a little bit more knowledge of the island of Curaçao and where your drinks are coming from. Thank you again for listening to Islands Uncovered. My name is Megan. I'm the owner of Dare to Dream Travel. If you are interested in going to Sandals Royal Curaçao or any of the other Sandals or Beaches properties, please reach out to me. My services are always free, and I would love to help hook you up with some of these great deals, personalized service, and get you on your next amazing Caribbean vacation. Bye-bye, everybody.